Hello and welcome to BharatShakti.in. I am Captain DK Sharma, and today we are going to talk about a very interesting and a contemporary topic, which you all must be reading in the newspapers as well as watching it on TV. Yes, I am talking about the situation in the Western Arabian Sea affecting our sea lanes of communication and the trade. And with me to explain the situation in great detail, I have a very decorated officer with me, Vice Admiral Biswajit Dasgupta, who retired recently as the Flag Officer Commanding in Chief of the Eastern Naval Command. The Admiral has tenanted some very coveted appointments during his illustrious career, starting with Command of Aircraft Carrier Bharat. Then he was the CSO Ops of the Western Naval Command, which normally looks after this area of operations. He was the Controller of Personnel Services. He was the Fleet Commander of the Eastern Fleet and retired finally as the Commander in Chief of the Eastern Naval Command. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, DK. It's a pleasure to be with you and see you on the other side of the screen.
Thank you, sir. Sir, to start with, we have seen in the latest reports today that Indian Navy has deployed almost 10 capital warships in that side of the ocean, that is the Western Arabian Sea, which leads to the opening of the Gulf of Aden, the Persian Gulf, Gulf of Oman. So, what do you make of it, sir? Is it a direct fallout of the Israel-Hamas war, or it is a situation coupled with that war where they are interdicting the white shipping and the pirates are taking advantage of the situation? So, what do you make of
I
it, sir?
think, I think there is a genuine concern in the country as well as in the Indian Navy because the mercantile peace, which is the peace conducive for commerce, has been disturbed in our backyard. And therefore, it is only apt and appropriate that a certain show of force is made as a deterrent, because that is necessary, because the miscreants who are out at sea require to see a physical presence and a show of force for some kind of deterrence. Now, whether 10 ships are too much or too less, or is it just a show of force for the time being to display intent, is yet to be seen. I am not privy to the decision making at the naval headquarters, but I think it is time for the Indian maritime forces as well as the other credible maritime forces that are available in the region to ensure that deterrence starts to play so that we don't have too many such incidents in the future.
Admiral, I will ask you first thing that how does this attacks or disruption to the trade affecting India per se and the world traffic at large? We all know 90% of the trade flows through the seas, and our slocks are one of the most important ones which connect the western part of the world to the eastern part, either way, whether they transit the cargo transits from the Malacca Strait, comes to the IOR, and then passes through the Bab el Mandab, Suez Canal, and goes to the western part of the world, or the energy needs which are flowing out of the Persian Gulf. So, what is the economic effect which has caused so much of concern that the world has taken note of it? What do you say about it, sir?
We don't have to jog our memories very far back. We were just about recovering from the piracy situation, which started sometime in 2008, and there were a whole lot of multinational forces deployed along the Gulf of Aden and that particular area. And it was well clear at that point in time itself that a disruption in maritime traffic has got global consequences. It will affect global supply chains. It will affect safety of people. It will affect safety of seafarers. It is likely to have ecological ramifications. should a tanker or a gas carrier be attacked and there's a large scale spill or pollution at sea. uh, Goods that are being carried, oil and gas and minerals and various other important commodities that are being carried across the world have to go through these sea lanes. They have to pass through certain choke points, which you mentioned. India being right at the center of these busy, sea lanes, we have got choke points on either side, and you will find that these disruptions take place closer to the choke points because that is where the sea areas are restricted and these miscreants have the wherewithal to interfere in those areas. And therefore, it is not surprising that the Houthis have chosen that particular area to disrupt the shipping. So there are ramifications. I think India has to be very concerned. Uh, India has to be very concerned for several reasons. One of the main reasons being that the Indian seafarers account for about 10% of the total number of seafarers in the world. So we are the third largest population of seafarers providing manpower or providing human resource to the shipping industry. So it is Philippines, Indonesia, India, China, and a few other countries that provide this manpower. So if India is going to provide 10% of the seafarers, statistically, every 10th ship at sea is manned by Indians. And if they are not totally manned by Indians, this number becomes even more. So there's a very large number of Indian seafaring population that requires to be protected. There is critical cargo for India, which requires to be safeguarded. There is import and export from India and to India that requires to be safeguarded. So India has every reason to be concerned, and more so because all these things are happening very close to our shores. And it is of great concern to us, as it should be for the entire country.
Very well explained, sir. But sir, as you are saying that the ships, the white shipping is more vulnerable near to the choke points. But we saw 2 weeks back that one of the ships was attacked right in the center of Arabian Sea. So, how do you think that this attack was engineered, or maybe there was somebody behind it? Was it a act of non-state actors, or somebody was guiding them? And how the vectoring of the ammunition was done on board the ship which got hit, MV Chem Pluto?
These are all in the realm of conjecture at the moment, but all I can say is that a drone attack out at sea cannot be done without adequate resource, without adequate training, and without adequate financial support and backing. You are aware, DK, that a drone can be operated from a multitude of platforms, ashore and afloat. So we really do not know where these drones have come from and who are behind controlling these drones. Are they just a rebel outfit, or do they have state support behind them? Is not known to me, at least. But the point is that such a sophisticated attack out at sea is difficult to be accomplished by people or a group of people that does not have adequate financial backing, resource, training, and equipment. So we can draw our conclusions, but I am led to believe that um, whichever outfit has carried out this attack has a fair amount of organization behind.
Well, sir, that means that whatever threat is there now, it is omnipresent insofar as IOR is concerned. So, what kind of protection measures would any navy, for that matter, Indian Navy, would now provide to the white shipping, which is spread all across, and the amount of traffic is humongous? So, will the 10 ships, along with the air effort which we are reading, will they be able to sanitize the area, or we'll go into, as we were doing earlier after 2008, we were doing a kind of convoying, or will we have to now perforce join some coalition of maritime forces to counter this?
Well, I think, it is a little early to draw such conclusions because um, we need to, over a period of time, say over a period of the next few months, see what is the trend. One isolated attack on the high seas does not mean that, the threat is omnipresent. It could be a one-off case. So I think there's a requirement to monitor trends, and subsequently we will get a fair idea of where these attacks are being concentrated, and the maritime effort at sea will therefore get concentrated on those areas, exactly like the anti-piracy effort was undertaken by either individual nations or as a coalition of forces. Now, whether India will join a coalition of forces or will carry out their actions independently remains to be seen. Our experience during the anti-piracy operations was, at that point in time, our stated policy was that either we do our work independently in loose coordination with the other maritime forces, or we operate under the UN flag. That was the stated position of the Indian establishment. It remains to be seen what is going to be the reaction at this moment.
At this point, sir, I'll bring in a point where we all remember that when this piracy threat was at its peak in the Western Arabian Sea and the Arabian Sea, the insurance rates were hiked up by the insurers for the white shipping. And the HRA was almost coming next door to us or next door to the Indian coast. With great difficulty and due diligence by the Indian Navy, by sanitizing the area, the HRA was pushed back. Now, do you think that once again that the thing will open up and once again the private shipping will have to pay more insurance, or will they have to perforce, because of the higher insurance rates, go around the Cape and then head towards the Antarctic or the Arctic Ocean or the Mediterranean and Atlantic?
See, it is quite likely that the insurance rates for maritime traffic in this area will go up. Uh, Again, I think we need to watch for some more time whether the high risk area is going to get extended, because I suppose the organizations that are engaged in this work, the IMO and the other organizations that are engaged in this work, are also waiting to carry out some kind of a trend analysis to see where the attacks are concentrated and what should be uh, a pragmatic high risk area, because these have got, again, global repercussions. The shipping companies, their ship owners, the wages of the seafarers, the supply chains, the cost of goods, everything is going to go up with a hike in insurance. So keeping the high risk area to the minimum is in the best interest of everybody. However, that will require an umbrella of security. That security for the moment cannot be provided by anybody other than maritime forces. I here also would like to place a caveat that any effort by the maritime forces is at best a temporary fix, because the root cause of these attacks emanate from land. They emanate from instability in governance in certain countries. Unless that is resolved, these things will continue to surface once in a while, and maritime forces will get drawn into this, and they will continue to provide security, but the ultimate fix must be found on land.
Abdul, I'll just request you to tell to our viewers what is a high risk area and what is the need for it to be minimized or maybe pushed to as close as the Somali coast, because that is where the problem starts from. As you have very rightly brought out, all these, the root cause of all these issues is at land, which is getting manifested at sea. So, what is this high risk area, and why do the insurance companies immediately tax the, I mean, say the end user? You see, once the insurance goes up, the end user will have to pay it ultimately. So, I would like you to a little bit throw some light on it.
Well, you see, at the moment, I would like to believe that these attacks on shipping are restricted to organizations that do not have too much of a wherewithal to go very much out to sea. That is my assumption. It may be wrong. Therefore, in the case of piracy, they were essentially small boats that went out a few miles into the sea and did some small time robbery to big piracy attempts across that spectrum of armed robbery and piracy and small theft. Now, the the drone attacks by the Houthis are in a different league. They are more focused towards, inflicting damage. Now, that is of concern because inflicting damage on a ship is likely to have several repercussions, like I said, loss of life, pollution, ecological disasters, that kind of stuff. Now, why that should be so, there obviously has to be a reason behind why the Houthis are attacking ships to inflict damage. There has to be a reason. Whether, that ship or its cargo or its crew has got affiliation to a particular state or a particular country, which the Houthis feel required to be addressed by drone attacks, perhaps that could be a reason. Now, coming to your question directly about insurance. If you look at the geography of the Red Sea, on the one side you have Yemen, from where the Houthi insurgency or the Houthi movement has started, or it's the home to the Houthi movement. On the other side of the Red Sea, you have Egypt, you have Saudi Arabia, and you have Somalia across the Horn. That's where the piracy started. Now, piracy also had its origins on land. It was basically because of misgovernance. People ran out of jobs and they started looting ships at sea. So, if you see the geography of the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, I think the high risk area at the moment should be confined to that area. Because beyond that, one will have to see whether these forces who are trying to inflict damage have the wherewithal to do it beyond these areas. So if that happens, then if the high risk area is reduced, then the maritime insurance costs perhaps may remain manageable. Rerouting of merchant traffic, down the Cape or upwards north is not going to be a financially, beneficial proposition for the ship owners or the ship agents. So therefore, people would like to go by the direct route, save on fuel, save on manpower costs, save on time, and deliver cargo safely. So I think at the moment, we need to minimize the high risk area closer as possible to the Gulf of Aden and the Red Sea, and provide a certain degree of security assurance till the time a more permanent solution is found.
And sir, I would also like to bring in your experience as the CSO Ops of the Western Naval Command. How much of the assets now will be stressed? Because now we have put out 10 ships to sea for the last 15 days. And as you are aware, our Honorable Raksha Mantri and Prime Minister said that we will be the first responder. And a kind of a security network or security will be provided to one and all. So, how does this affect the operations of the Navy, which have got many other jobs apart from this? This, of course, is one of our primary duties, but then the Navy is involved in many, many other things. So, how does this affect in the overall scheme of things?
Well, I will not go into the nitty gritty of numbers and how many should we deploy and what should be left remaining for other tasks, etc. But I will give you a broad canvas of what I think is driving our actions. One, we are the most capable Navy in this part of the world. There is no other Navy that can provide the degree of assurance, safety, surveillance, and monitoring that the Indian Navy can provide. And make no mistake, we are not doing this for ourselves. We are doing this for mercantile peace. We are doing this so that global trade can move over the oceans without disturbance and disruption. We have long range air assets. We have ships with long legs. We have an information fusion center where information on shipping is available to us at our fingertips. Which other country has this kind of wherewithal? Who will take the leadership? If we do not act according to our capability to provide a certain amount of assurance to countries in the region, all the more reason for insurance rates to go up, high risk areas to increase, and downstream the countries importing and exporting goods are going to be affected. Now, let me also bring in another perspective. We have just relinquished the G20 presidency on the 30th of November. Now, India was chosen to take on the presidency of the G20 not because of any other reason, because of our growing capability, status, and the trust that the global community has in us. And I think it is incumbent upon the Indian establishment to do whatever is possible to stabilize the situation. I'm not saying that 10 or 12 ships should be there on a permanent basis. No, maybe this is the call of the time to make sure that deterrence plays, and thereafter, as the situation stabilizes, maybe we will get back to something like the anti-piracy kind of a patrol, or maybe things will just fizzle out. Who knows? But for the moment, when the global community, the maritime community is stressed out, they're feeling insecure, who else is going to provide security in this part of the oceans? It can't be anybody other than the Indian Navy. Let me also give you one more example. Why was the Indian Navy all over the region and the world during the COVID pandemic? Why were our aircraft flying all over the place? Why were our ships going to all the countries and delivering aid or bringing aid? Because that is the capability which we have. And if you're not going to use the capability, why have it? We're not going to war on a daily basis.
Correct.
The Indian Navy has got roles across the spectrum of operations, from peace to the highest level of war. So I think it is legitimate. It is expected out of the Indian Navy. How much, how far, how long is a matter of detail, which the operations staff of the Indian Navy knows better than all of us put together.
Very well brought out, sir. And also, in this, you've explained it very, very unambiguously that the flags of convenience, which was another thing which I wanted to ask you, but you brought it out, that it could be a ship of any country, it could be a cargo of any place going from place A to place B, whether it is destined for India or has originated from India, does not matter, because the job which the Indian Navy is doing right now is to protect the sea lanes, to bring in the confidence and let the people understand that there is somebody who's looking after all this. Uh, I would like you to add to it, sir.
Yes, of course. I mean, we have never, as a country and as a navy, we have never been selective as to whom to protect and whom not to protect. We are protecting maritime trade. We are protecting seafarers. It doesn't matter from which part of the country or which flag state they belong to. When we undertook evacuation operations several times in the past, we have never said that we are going to evacuate only Indians.
Correct.
We said we will evacuate everybody who requires to be evacuated. That is the trust, leadership, and benign nature of the Indian establishment and the Indian Navy. And we are doing just that. We're doing nothing more, nothing less. With regard to flags, I must just bring out a little issue, a little point, which just for clarification of the viewers. There are two kinds of flags. One is a regular flag state and one is a flag of convenience. A flag state is one where the ship owners, the ship agents, the ship itself belongs to that flag, that country, and you are registered in that country and you fly the flag of that country. Now, the flying the flag of a state has a certain amount of sanctity and responsibility to it. The flag state concerned, has got certain accountability and certain responsibility to enforce regulations. Whereas there are certain places where you can register a vessel which can be outside the flag state. Those are called flags of convenience. The regulatory mechanisms are loose. The money that is to be paid for registration and various other formalities are low. So most ship owners and ship agents prefer flags of convenience. Now, as far as flags of convenience go, if there is an attack on a ship that is flying a flag of convenience, that particular country, whether it is Panama or Liberia or whatever it is, they have very little wherewithal to respond, very little responsibility, and very little skin in the game. Whereas if it is a proper flag state, say it's a ship flying an Indian ship flying an Indian flag, or a Chinese ship flying a Chinese flag, or an American ship flying an American flag, whoever is planning to carry out an attack will think 10 times before doing so. Because carrying out an attack on a ship flying a flag is equivalent to carrying out an attack on the flag state. So therefore, if just for example, just for just for an example, if you say that an attack was carried out on a Chinese flag vessel or registered in Shanghai or an American flagged vessel, the response will be entirely different. You see the attacks that have been carried out. You see the flag states. Either they are weak flag states or they are flags of convenience. Let anybody try to carry out an attack on an Indian ship flying an Indian flag. You see the response that will be given to that. That notwithstanding, even with other ships being attacked, the very fact that the Indian Navy is deploying and trying to provide an umbrella of security or trying to provide an assurance of security is something I think which should be appreciated. And there should be no finger pointing. It's not our job, or Indian Navy should do better things. No, at this point in time, this is the best thing to do.
Very well brought out, because in the recent case where MV Leela Norfolk, it was a Chinese company, Costco company ship, which is flying the flag of Liberia and was carrying, the cargo from Brazil to Bahrain. And that was, hijacked by the pirates, which was neutralized and rendered safe by Indian Navy. What an example, and how beautifully you have explained it to our viewers. With this, I have come to an end to this show. But the way Admiral has brought out that the responsibility and the prevailing power in the Indian Ocean region remains to be Indian Navy, and they are doing their job in a very, very diligent manner. And as of now, when we have deployed, or Indian Navy has deployed more than 10 ships along with the air effort, this only shows that Indian Navy is very serious, and India is very serious insofar as protecting the sea lanes of communications are concerned, whether the attacks come from the Houthi side, the rebels, the sympathizers, or whether it comes from the pirates. With this, I come to the end of this show, sir, and thank you very much for being a part of it. And we look forward to talking to you and explaining it to our viewers, the nitty gritties of things which are happening in the maritime domain, and who better than you who can come and explain it to us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, DK. It's been a pleasure being on your show. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Well, viewers, we will be bringing you shows of this kind, the topics which are very contemporary, topical, and have evinced a lot of interest. Do like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Bharat Shakti. Thank you.